schedule me for evening shift. Make certain you know what you're doing. A couple of recent stories reminded me of something that happened way back when I was a teenager, and had a job at a hotel, as a busboy in a coffee shop. We had about 95 seats, and on a Saturday and Sunday we would do about 400 covers. It was busy, but I was good. Afternoon, things would slow down, so I would jump into the dish pit and help them catch up. One Sunday, the back-of-house manager and the general manager were having lunch, and they called me over. They asked me to take the next Saturday's evening shift in the dish pit. I reminded them that weekends were pretty busy, and they would have a problem if I wasn't bussing on breakfast. They told me they would get someone to cover bussing, but they really needed me in the dish pit that Saturday night. I agreed, but told them that I would need to leave at 11 p.m. on the dot, as I relied on public transit to get home, and there was no way I could work late. They said, no problem, and we had a deal. I showed up at 3 p.m. to absolute chaos. Guess who they had cover bussing? That's right, the dishwasher. The pit was absolutely stacked with dishes. And then I found out why they needed me on that shift. Banquets and the coffee shop used the same glassware, plates and cutlery, and there was a massive banquet going on upstairs. When I got there, the cook line and the banquet crew were going nuts, prepping and setting up tons of centerpieces, place settings, that sort of thing. We had bussing carts and the banquet crew was loading them up and running them up the elevators to the banquet hall. It was pandemonium. The back-of-house manager kept yelling at me. I need more forks right now. And I was fishing through the dozens of bus pans from day shift trying to get him the stuff he needed. It took a while, but I managed to it for him. I took it with a grain of salt, since he was actually a pretty good guy, just stressed to the max. Finally, the banquet stuff all went upstairs and I could clear the backlog. It took me until about 8 p.m. Then, nothing. There was about 400 people attending this banquet, and occasionally I would see a member of the banquet team come down, and I would ask them where the dish carts were. These guys treated me like shit, and snapped that they would bring them down when they had a chance. Sure enough, it was about 10 p.m. when the parade of banquet bozos started wheeling cart after cart of dirty dishes in by the pit. There were tons of them, 30 or 40 at least, and none of the bus tubs were sorted. It was all just tossed in. They weren't even scraped into the trash. There was leftover food on lots of the plates. Just before 11 p.m., I see the back-of-house manager talking to his crew, and I went up to him. I was really pissed off. What the hell am I supposed to do here? I asked, gesturing to the carts. Wash the dank things, he snapped back. There's no time. I leave in 15 minutes, remember? Well, you'll just have to stay late. I can't. I have a bus to catch. If I miss it, I miss my connection, and that's the last bus. So, no, I am leaving, and I told you that last week. He starts getting irate, and I just took off my apron and left without a word. The next weekend, I arrive for my busboy shift and I get called into the general manager's office. The back-of-house manager was there, and the general manager is asking me why I abandoned the dish pit in such chaos. As it turns out, nobody on the banquet crew would work the pit, and in the morning, there was nowhere near enough dishware and cutlery for the coffee shop. The dishwasher they had covering took one look at the hell in back and quit on the spot. They had to close the coffee shop, and lost out on a ton of money. I just looked at them and reminded them that when I said I would take the dish pit for that shift, that I would be leaving on time. It's not my fault that the banquet crew didn't start bringing down the carts until after 10 p.m. The general manager looked at the back-of-house manager and asked him what time they served the meals. 6 p.m. So you're telling me that your crew took over 3 hours to roll the dishes back downstairs, and you didn't do anything about it? What the hell were they doing? Why didn't you assign 1 or 2 to push the carts? Then I pointed out that all the carts weren't sorted, and that the plates weren't even scraped. The back-of-house manager gave me the stink eye, and the general manager excused me and said to head down to the coffee shop and pick up the busing. The following weekend I came in, and there was a big notice targeted at the banquet guys. All bus pans were to contain only one item: one pan for dinner plates, one pan for side plates, one pan for glassware, another for cutlery. All dishes were to be in the dish pit no later than 15 minutes after being pulled from the table. All plates were to be scraped of excess food waste before going in the pan. The banquet crew was pissed that they actually had to do their jobs, and the back of house manager was pissed that a lowly busboy/dishwasher put him in the hot seat. They never asked me to take an evening shift again. Now to the comments. Imagine having a 400-person banquet and not scheduling more than one dishwasher. What a bunch of idiots. Trust me, it's not unheard of. Every manager, when they realize they can cut costs and increase profits by doubling the workload and halving the staff, what could possibly go wrong? Above how delicious this MC is, we're again shown so clearly how the lowest guy on the totem pole is so critical to the whole operation. What happened when the dishwasher left? The place closed. Yet, they treated you with such little respect. Everyone is essential in this kind of environment, and I think it's incredible that you saw the issue ahead of time, brought up the issue, and dealt with the fallout better than the supposed manager did. Exactly, like in many industries. This is an excellent malicious compliance. Nicely played and written. Yes, very well written, made it easy to understand and easy to enjoy. My thoughts exactly. I'm not a native reader and in another field of work, but I understood everything completely. Never mess with the people who clean. Such an underpaid, mistreated, yet essential role. If things aren't cleaned, everything shuts down in that industry, as OP so skillfully showed. I remember one weekend of hell from my days of working at a holiday park. I was a bar porter during the time where it was one of the busiest weekends of the season and the electric for the park blew. It didn't seem so bad until we realized just after shutting down the bar and restaurant to see the masses of unwashed plates and glasses half empty that we couldn't touch because for no light safety reasons we needed to go. We couldn't even toss the drinks down the drain as the entire place worked off a water pump system so it wouldn't drain away. The next morning was an all-hands-on-deck to blitz the place and get everything up to scratch in time to open the bar later that evening and avoid health violations in the kitchen. Not to mention log the losses and clean out the walk-ins as the electric had been out so long. You don't appreciate how much work gets done until you see the total amount of stuff out at any given moment suddenly gathered and stacked for clean rather than trickle in over time. I work in food service as a service manager and the food safety leader for my shifts. If power goes out, that immediately is a crisis and customers being served becomes the last priority. Customer satisfaction is already my last priority due to being understaffed, as I prioritize food safety and speed over the customers. If we lose refrigeration, I don't care what my managers say. That instantly means shutting down and salvaging what we can. Without exception. I'm surprised you guys kept working without electricity or refrigeration. Kudos for not backing out of your responsibility and having the balls to point out who is responsible for the issue. I've not done the same jobs as OP, but I've been in the same position. I had a basic role, but I was good and knew what duck was going on, and when you're in that position you hold a lot of power. And if you actually enjoy what you do, well then that just makes it tastier when you get to throw the idiot manager under the bus for ducking everything up. The dishwasher is high-key the least desirable and the most powerful job in a kitchen. You shit on your dishwashers. You pay for it very quickly because you can't serve anything without dishes. You make a deal with a dishwasher. You better dang well keep it because they have the key to screw your big money night at a moment's notice by just leaving, and there's shit all you can do about it when they come in the next day because it's run so lean you literally can't afford to let them go. Holy shit OP, your boss actually listened to you? I'm sick of seeing MC stories on here where the bosses gang up on the employee and fire them and the business just goes up in flames shortly after. I can deduce that the evidence of the problem was pretty clear for anyone that went to the dish pit. Management had to close the restaurant, so at some point they probably had to look at the abomination that was left behind, and they would have to get someone arsed enough to clean it up eventually. If that business was going to last, then this was pretty much the only way forward. I also worked a hotel restaurant and then moved to banquets and became a captain, supervisor. There's no excuse for that banquets guy letting his crew duck up that bad. When you serve 400 people dinner, they really are done with everything but some glassware and maybe dessert stuff before 8 p.m. You start cutting people at 7. Nearly all the plates are cleared and the buffet has been torn down. Send half your staff home and save the labor cost. By the time it's nearly 11, there should only be the bartender, captain, and enough staff to empty and rebuild the room for whatever is happening the next morning, usually meeting/presentation room setup. 90% of the dishes should have been out of there long ago.